Good afternoon, everyone that's just started to join. I think because we're about 4 minutes in, we probably should get started. So, welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is on BMC Helix Insights. We're going to be focusing on elevate your business decisions with Helix Insights. Today, joining me is Sean Smith. He will do a formal introduction very shortly. Just a couple of reminders for you. There is a Q&A section of Zoom, not the chat part. If you can put any questions into the Q&A, you will remain muted until we've got through the presentation and demo, which will be a live demo. And we will have an opportunity towards the end where we can take some of your live questions and talk to you directly. So we will be leaving you on mute for now. We will get started. We're expecting quite a lot of people to arrive. Hopefully you're going to enjoy it. So Sean, I'm going to hand over to you to get us started and do your introduction. Over to you.
Thanks, Sam. My name's Sean Smith. Good to meet you all virtually. I'm a solutions engineer at BMC Software. I've been here for many years. I specialize in our digital service and operations management portfolio. Over the next sort of 40 to 50 minutes, I'll be taking you through our exciting new capability, which is called the BMC Helix Insights. It's actually a placeholder for two technical capabilities. One's called real-time incident correlation, and the second is called proactive problem management. I was actually lucky to be part of the early adopters program back in 2021, where we introduced this capability to a large bank, and some of the value they saw back from it was quite fabulous. But yeah, with that said, let's move on to the next slide. So we have to put this up just to really protect our IP. We ask you not to share it with our competition. And also there are some elements of this presentation that are still in a roadmap phase. So they are still subject to change or cancellation. So just bear that in mind. Thank you. Okay, the agenda is fairly straightforward. We're going to look at why we've developed Helix Insights. It is actually a technology that's about 4 years old now. And some of the reasons why we've developed it as BMC, we're going to look at perhaps current state and perhaps some pain that you're experiencing, as a service desk manager or problem coordinator, and then how we're going to use this solution to, to solve some of that pain for you. We'll also have a quick look at some of the back-end algorithms, how we've developed this solution. We won't go too deeply into that, but I will share a link which you may find quite interesting. Back in 2021, I think we were just coming out of lockdown. My team and I went to a really nice studio in London, in Whitechapel, and we recorded a whole day of understanding of how AI works within our technologies. It was pre-generative AI, but this certainly formed a big part of that. And I'll put the link in the chat in a minute, and you can perhaps just watch that offline. It's quite interesting. I do go into quite some depth with regards to how the algorithms work, in the back end to help you achieve some Helix insights. And then I'm going to drop into a live demo. The demo will probably be about 10-15 minutes. I'll take you into some of the backend configuration, and then look at the value that then produces for your service management functions. And then lastly, we'll just tie it off with, what value do you derive from adopting this technology? So we're going to start at a kind of like a 40,000-foot view. And IDC says that artificial intelligence is forming a major part of any business strategy. If you look at the stat on the left-hand side, 3/4 of organizations are implementing sort of AI-driven analytical detection, either into their infrastructure or into their domain data, or a combination of both. I think that's quite interesting because of essentially how I see it. There's two parts to AI, one being, the understanding of the data that you've got using analytics, making sense of, huge amounts of data. I think there's a stat that says in the last 24 hours, we've produced more digital data than we have in than we have in the whole of the 1990s. So, the astronomical rise in digital data in everything that we do is quite substantial, and trying to make sense of that data is really important, especially if you think of a service desk and the number of tickets that are coming in, the types of requests people are asking, the how-tos people are searching for, using AI to really help drive understanding of that information so that we can be informed when we predict what's going to happen next. If we have a look at this World Economic Forum white paper, some of the skills that are going to be needed for future jobs, again, if you look in the top three on the left-hand side there, it's all around, analytical thinking, creative thinking, AI and big data. So making sure that you have those skills is imperative and important, but also using AI to assist you with that analytics or that creative thinking, I think, has become a big part of today's society, especially with the likes of Helix GPT, Chat GPT, DeepSeek, fresh off the newsreel. I think, that's kind of where we need to position ourselves for the future. If we take another step down and ask ourselves, or as BMC ask ourselves, why have we developed Helix Insights? It's really down to our interactions with our current customers, having a look at what the market's demanding, having a look at what the analysts are predicting, but it's really the time that we've spent with our customers. So we sell software into service management functions within your organizations. And within those organizations, you've got various personas. Quite critical to any service management function is the service desk manager, right? And this person is, responsible for a lot of things, and really has to try to, remove any IT hurdles that are preventing the employees from being productive and doing their jobs. So in order to do that, they have to analyze a lot of data, right? They have to look at last week's ticket data. They have to download it into reports or into dashboards or into spreadsheets. They have to filter and sort. And often they have to go into each individual ticket, because the gold dust, as it were, is maintained within the note section of the ticket. And, no amount of categorization is going to tell them that. So a lot of time is spent analyzing, ticket data or problem data or change data. And it's time consuming, right? And sometimes they have to have meetings and war rooms and discuss and try and pinpoint where kind of the hot spots are. And the reasons why they do this is obviously to prevent these issues and these problems from reoccurring, right? So if, to use the old analogy of, creating a workaround, putting a Band-Aid over the wound, is all right for a temporary, fix, but, to get to the root cause of something is massively important, because that obviously reduces the number of incidents that, potentially could reoccur in the future. So what are BMC doing about this? Our product strategy and roadmap for service management is very strong, and we've gone down an agentic AI route. So you can see we've got something called Helix GPT, which is a master agent. And this agent is conversing and collaborating with all of these specialized agents, which you can see spread across the bottom. So we've got everything from an employee navigator, so a bot that essentially interacts with your employees if they are asking, what's the dental policy, or can I have some software installed, or can I have my password reset? The employee navigator is essentially a specialized bot to help those employees, get answers and to their queries at first call, and then deflecting a lot of the tickets off the desk, right? So if you can say perhaps 1 in 4. A 25% reduction in tickets coming into the desk, I think that's a massive win for everyone. And then over on the right-hand side, we've got, something that's not GA yet, but it will be very soon, around a custom agent builder. This allows us to essentially just type in, using conversational style approach, into a bot, the custom agent builder, and it starts to build on the innovation suite and builds apps for you. So if you wanted an app that represented, reserving parking spaces at the office, or if you wanted an app that allowed you to control contracts with your suppliers, or a number of other things, you can start to tell the bot what your outcomes are, and the bot will start to put the correct approval processes in, or the correct phases in, the correct integrations, at least as a framework, and then you can further reconfigure and refine that. But all of these bots require data, right? So we're very open to integrating with other third-party solutions that potentially you already are using. For example, you may have your internal intranet designed and being produced through SharePoint, which is holding policy and procedure and how-to documents and knowledge. Well, the Employee Navigator can start to integrate with these sources and then generate new answers for employees. And then we also open it up to a communication channel of your choice. So, if you're a Teams user, for example, instead of logging into our digital workplace app on your phone, you can essentially, speak to these bots through the Microsoft Teams interface, which, a lot of our customers are requesting. It's something that we can do today. And it's another channel or avenue that you can provide to your employees going forward. The two that we're going to discuss today around Helix Insights is our proactive problem management and our real-time incident correlation. Now, as I've said before, it is about 4 years old as technology, but it's really come to provenance with the whole world of AI, especially in the first phase, right? The analyzing of data. So if you look at something like a real-time incident correlation, this is a tool that is underpinned by an algorithm that looks at ticket trending, right? So if you're in a large service desk and there's perhaps, many service desk agents, and, you as the service desk manager see that all the phones light up and everyone's interacting, taking calls, listening to problems, you may want to understand what's going on. So you can start to use things like real incident correlation to understand trends in tickets without having to rely on reports and dashboards and spreadsheets, and without having to rely on agents categorizing things correctly. Because as we know, you may categorize an incident in a particular way when you first hear what the issues are, but by the time you've analyzed and worked out what the problems are and rectified and remediated, it might be a software problem over a hardware problem, but because of your initial analysis, you've incorrectly categorized it, which has detrimental effects downstream, right? So the service desk manager now is looking at a report based on categorizations that are essentially incorrect, and then making judgment on data that's not accurate. So real-time incident correlation removes the need for us to rely on categorizations, and it essentially uses clustering algorithms to join and group tickets together. So real-time incident correlation, as it says in the name, it's real time, right? It's looking at where the ticket trends are, where the hotspots are, where are the areas that you need to concentrate on, and essentially perhaps invoke a major incident process, and all that goes with that. But it's a capability that shows you the here and now. Proactive problem management is, I always like to call it a back office capability. If you think of a problem manager, they are looking again at ticket trends, and they're looking at a period of time that's in the past, right? So they may be looking at last week, last month, last quarter, and they're going, well, last week was a really busy week. Everyone's kind of back up and running again, but we've put a load of band-aids, on all the issues. Let's take that offline and get to the root cause of it. And in order to do that, we need to cluster incidents together, not using or relying on categorizations, but the plain text that people have put into tickets as a whole. So that's what I'm going to be demonstrating to you today. Hopefully that gives you a good understanding of Helix Insights. What we're going to do now is just kind of go a little bit under the hood, as they say in America, or in the weeds, as they say in the UK, and understand a little bit about k-means, because I think it's quite important for you to know what it is, at least initially. But again, I said I'll put a little link in the chat window, and I'm sure Sam can send it out after this call as well, where we did a real deep dive into k-means algorithms. It is an old algorithm that was developed in the 1980s, but we've seen real value from this mathematical algorithm today because of the large data sets that it's able to work with. So what k-means does and is it's a centroid clustering mechanism, which essentially takes a data point, it could be random, and it measures the distance to its neighbor. And if the distance is closest to the originating centroid, it puts that data point into a cluster. So here you can see on the left-hand side, unstructured data. There's no categorization of any sort. And then once we run it through the k-means algorithms, it sticks it into a group. Now, what's interesting about that is we can then take that group and we can start to action records within that cluster. If I just go one step further, you'll see down the left-hand side, we've got a number of iterations, and the first green bar across the top is our data. So at point 0, we're going to start with unstructured data. We then run the data through an algorithm. We apply certain filters because we only want to see data perhaps in a resolved and closed state. Or you may only want to see data for a particular department or for a particular time period or a particular business service or a particular assigned group. But this data is filtered, it's unstructured. We pass it through the k-means algorithm and it sticks it into different clusters. We then have this opportunity to create reoccurring or scheduled iterations of clustering. So iteration 1 then takes the clusters that we've got. It receives new ticket data because we're now looking at a different time period or week -1 or -2. New tickets are being added to the database. We take that new data set and we either add it to existing clusters or we create additional clusters depending on how far they are from the centroids. And iteration 3, iteration 4, iteration 5, and so on and so forth. So either the new data is added to original clusters or the clusters are created from scratch. Okay, so the first part of the demonstration is looking at that exact example where we're going to be looking at something called proactive problem management. I always like to, as part of my demonstrations, associate the demo to a persona, just so that you can relate. And in this case, we've got a problem coordinator. And if you just kind of focus in on some of the challenges that this coordinator goes through every day of his working career, is, problem investigations are costly because usually you have to, as I said before, analyze data, large data sets from different data sources. You may need to put into a spreadsheet. You may need to rejig some reports. You may need to pull in people from different departments to, analyze some technical data that perhaps you don't understand. So you've got to prioritize which problems you work on. So that's the first thing. The second thing is a lot of the gold nuggets, as I said before, are kept in free-form text fields, right? There might be the notes field, there might be the summary field, it might be, the headings, it might be the titles, etc. And, to do this for every ticket that you need to analyze is extremely time-consuming. And then, you might review, because of this costly, time-inefficient process, you might do it infrequently. And this allows, problems and root causes to persist. So you're kind of always firefighting with regards to analyzing what the root cause is, getting a fix, reducing ticket volumes, or not doing that and only creating workarounds, but the ticket numbers start to increase. So it's almost like you have to take one step back in order to take 3 steps forward. Okay, the demo is going to look at our problem management dashboard and console. I've already ingested a load of data into the systems. This is just a demo system. And I've already run the analysis, the algorithms that require the clustering capabilities to work. So we'll essentially be looking at the results of that cluster. We'll analyze the cluster. We'll play a little bit with the dashboard, filter a few bits out. We'll also have a look at a job, so a proactive problem management job and some of the config that you can put in there. And then we're going to associate tickets that are in a resolved state, in a closed state, through to a problem investigation. But also looking at a fairly new capability that's been added sort of in the last 2 years called resolution insights. And this is a second clustering mechanism that looks at the answers that have been given on the tickets that form part of that cluster and then clusters the answers. So not only can you identify tickets that share similar commonality between themselves, you can then also further cluster the answers that have been provided to your employees. Okay, let's swap screens. I'm just going to check time. I think we're good on time. And I'll just find the correct page. Okay, so all of you may be familiar with the Helix portal. This is essentially our launchpad for the modules that exist within the Helix platform. We're going to drop into ITSM. I've got it open here already. And then as part of this login, we've then got a couple of workspaces that we can then log into. I don't need to do that because I've already got it open. So I'll just pop into here, and I'm just going to refresh my screen to make sure that I haven't been logged out. Okay, excellent. So this is our proactive problem management dashboard. As you can see here, I've got a heat map of clusters. I'm just going to swap to this other one that I did yesterday. And the first thing that kind of grabs your attention is a couple of things. One is there are different clusters with different sizes. So if you think of this as a cluster of tickets, and then there are also clusters here that have different colors, right? So the color is based on the average priority of the tickets within that cluster. So here you can see user report loading. There's 12 incidents in that cluster, and the average priority of those 12 incidents is high, where these are all medium and some of these are green. There are critical ones, but in my demo data, I don't have any. Okay, the size is denoted by resolution time or the number of tickets within that cluster. So if you had one cluster with 2 incidents, we had another cluster with 100. Obviously, the cluster with 100 incidents is going to be the largest one. You've also got this opportunity here to have a look at a list view. So this essentially allows you to sort things based on any of these columns. You can add additional columns in, but this form allows you to sort based on what you think is most important. So in this case here, I've got access, attempt, and login. It's running at 78 incidents. So 78 people have phoned in, logged a ticket with the service desk, either through digital workplace or by phone or through email. But our clustering mechanism using k-means has put 78 of our incidents into that group. Okay. If I drop back into the heat map, up here, we've also got something called jobs. So jobs are essentially a filtered algorithm run that essentially you've set up, right? So here I've created one called Helix Insights, February 1 to February 6. But you may want to do it by service, by department, by assigned group, by priority. The choice is yours. I'll show you how to create a new job just in a minute. Okay, so let's have a look at some of these clusters. So here I've got an add cart item cluster, 22 tickets within that cluster. I've got a little menu here that allows me to view the details. I can relate to existing problem tickets, or I can create a problem ticket from scratch. In this case, I'm just going to select view cluster details. And it gives me a couple of nice graphs here that show me, trends that have occurred. Again, this is just demo data, so don't look too closely at the numbers. But just recently, I think a couple of days ago, I imported a load of data, so you can see a big spike here. And then I've got options here to show me this ticket grouping based on, support groups, company, service, and so on and so forth. So here you can see that most of these tickets are all related to my corporate website, which is called apexwatches.com. So, if that's an important service to your business, then you're going to get your A team to start to work on these. Because obviously, if people can't add things to your cart, they're not buying anything from you, and therefore it becomes a critical service for you to support. And then I've got a number of tickets that are kind of displayed running from top to bottom. So these are all the tickets that have been found that share these three words somewhere in the ticket's detail. So it might be in the work order info logs, it might be in the activity tracker, it might be in the summary, but it's essentially looked through the plain text using things like machine learning and natural language processing to come up with those commonalities, and then gone, okay, all of these share those values. I'm going to group them together into a single cluster. So at this point, you might go, fair enough. I might want to then select these tickets. I won't select all of them. I'll just select a couple, let's say 4. I might then want to relate them to a problem ticket. So remember who I am, right? I'm a problem manager. I don't want to spend hours going through ticket trends and reports and dashboards and spreadsheets and trying to work out, what tickets are related to one another. I'm not, I'm kind of leaving all of that to the AI. And essentially, my job now is to create a problem, group those tickets together, and then run through my normal problem management processes. So here I've created a problem. You can see that it's a PBI, problem investigation. It's number 21001. The creation of the problem record puts a lot of the data in for you automatically. So it speeds up the creation of problem creations. And you've got things like workarounds, resolutions, and so on and so forth. So at this point, I'm just going to hit the save button. This webinar, this meeting today is not about problem management, but it's essentially how do I identify problems from ticket trends and creations. So I've done that now, right? The bit that's interesting here is that the tickets in the problem investigations in draft, I can move it on at some point, but on the related items tab, I've got those 4 incidents that essentially identified through the clustering. So these incidents are being investigated through the processing of this problem record. And of course, I can then move on and follow my analysis, my understanding of root cause, etc., and then create something called a known error, and that can then be reutilized in my knowledge base. And when people phone up about adding carts or adding items to carts, that knowledge article can then help them first time fix. Okay, let's drop back into my PowerPoint. There we go. So we looked at the automated clustering of incidents, how we analyze that cluster, and then how we create problems and understand root cause through identification using k-means. One thing I did forget to show you, so let me just drop back into that just very quickly, is how we set up these jobs. So we drop into manage jobs. Here you can see 2 options. One is to create a recurrent job. Do you remember the iteration process of new data being added and then new clusters being created, either by adding new data to existing clusters or creating new clusters on their own, or we can create a one-time job. So in this case, if I just create a one-time job, you'd give it a name. You'd select the data set that it has access to. So by default, you get 22 fields, but you can add as many as you wish. You have the opportunity here to filter. So if you only wanted to do it for one company or one time period, or for tickets in a certain status or one region of your organization, you can start to filter this data set by these filter criteria over here. We then stick in a date range, and we look at the date range and look at the submit date of the tickets. And then this is the important bit, right? So we've got a cluster creation. Generally, what we recommend is to do it on services. That's if you've gone and discovered infrastructure, discovered dependencies between infrastructure, and then created business services, and then synchronize that into your CMDB. Obviously, that's the ultimate phase to be in, but you can do it based on, assignee or assignee group, or calculated priorities, or regions, or whatever it may be. So it's doing a first level grouping by service, and then within that manual service group, it's using machine learning on, in this case, it's the summary description. We've then also got opportunities here to use things like stop words. So if you look at, add item cart, there's probably a the and an and a and a, whatever. You can start to add in some sample stop words. We do give you a load out of the box, but you can add to the stop words, if there are any unique words within your organization that you want to remove from the clustering capabilities. You can remove PI information, as well as generate some resolution insights. So this is what I spoke about earlier, where you can cluster tickets based on commonality, and then you can recluster based on the resolution notes that have been provided to those tickets in the cluster. So in this case, I'm going to enable that. It's looking at the resolution note. It's also doing a minimum of 5 incidents per cluster, and a maximum of 5 resolutions. So this is a fairly new feature. I think it's about 24 months old now. So I say new, but actually it's 2 years old. But a great way for a problem manager to see what resolutions have been provided to the organization as part of that incident cluster. And then it's just a save. So I won't do that now because I didn't select the right bits, but you can see it's just a wizard that you work down, and then you can run that now. That then gives you a job quality score, and that's essentially looking at the centroids, if you remember back to k-means, and how close data points are to the center centroid. If they are quite far apart, then the data quality becomes less accurate. But there is a sort of we call an elbow of diminishing returns, whereby if you put too many centroids in, it becomes highly accurate, but if you don't put enough in, it's not accurate. And again, this all requires compute power. So there's a balancing act of having accurate clusters versus the compute power that's needed. Okay. Sam, I'm guessing there's no questions at this point. If there are, I'll perhaps just answer them after this next section, okay?
There's none at the moment.
Okay, cool. So the second part of the demonstration is around real-time incident correlation. So remember, this clustering capability is the here and now. So why are people phoning up incessantly? Why are the phones ringing off the hook? Why is there huge influx of tickets into the service desk? What's going on, right? So either you can speak to the team, you can have a team meeting, and you can understand, kind of find out what people are phoning in about, or you can use Helix insights and real-time incident correlation to tell you that from a non-objective point of view. So in this case, we've got a business user. Their challenges are that there's delays in service resolutions. There's low productivity because they're dealing with IT issues. You've also got the service desk agent. They trying to deal with a huge influx of tickets, especially when a major service goes down. It always reminds me of a financial institution's mobile app that went down on Black Friday last year. You can imagine their call center, the phones lighting up, people couldn't buy things they don't need from Amazon and the like, on Black Friday. But, ticket trends increase dramatically when business services fail. And this poor person, the service desk agent, has to deal with that. But from a service desk manager, they need to understand where are the hot spots, what's hot at the moment, so that they can invoke things like major incident management processes, and they can get SMEs onto the cases as quickly as possible, quell the fires, and get people working again. Okay, so we'll raise a ticket, we'll analyze the cluster, we'll resolve the issues. We'll actually take it a step further and go into our major incident management process, and where you can start to invoke various tasks around identification, communication, resolution, review, etc. And let me jump into that right away. There we go. Okay, so again, you just drop into real-time incident correlation. Again, this is going to be, from the point of view of a service desk agent. They'll get a call. They'll use something like Smart Recorder. They'll type in the person's name. This gives us a quick overview of who that person is. And then I'm going to say cannot deposit funds into their account. And over on the right-hand side, we start to do some clustering right off the bat, right? So here we're using Smart Recorder, a great way for you to record incidents rapidly by doing away with forms. And then over here on the right-hand side, Smart Recorder is pushing information to you that you may find useful in resolving this issue. So, cannot deposit funds into their account. Here you can see that we've already got 15 recommended tickets, of different users that are essentially facing the same issues. So as an agent, I'll be going, well, in this case, Liam's probably not just pushed the wrong button. There must be something else going on. Otherwise, 15 other people wouldn't also be complaining about it. So I can drop directly into real-time incident correlation. I've actually got it open here already. I'm going to hit the refresh button quickly. And I can already see that I've got a number of clusters that have occurred. So over the last 5-6 hours, I can see there was a big influx of tickets. It then dropped down. And then we've had kind of a continuous stream of tickets, in this case, 25 different tickets that have come in for app crash and transaction. It's also identified this as a possible major incident. But in this case, I had a huge influx of tickets, 5 or 6 hours ago, and then it's kind of steadied off with regards to unable deposit and currently. And then here I've got instabanking.com is not responsive. So, 12 tickets in a 6-hour window. And these are all within the Americas region. So these tickets, 35 of these tickets have been analyzed over the last 5 hours, and they've trended up. So 35 people have complained about something, which essentially we need to know about, because we now need to invoke the next level. We can kind of remove the possibility that the person just clicked the wrong button. If 35 people, unique examples, are complaining about app crash and transaction, then it's time for us to drop in and have a deeper look. So I've selected the cluster. And in this case here, all the tickets that form part of that cluster, there are 35 of them. Again, I won't select all of them. I'll just do a couple just for speed's sake. And the idea now is that we are assigning it to a parent ticket. So the idea behind a parent ticket is that you can then promote that parent ticket to a major incident and then follow your major incident processes from this parent. What's nice about that is if I do associate them, and I drop into, let me just find it. And I drop into the ticket itself. I've just lost it there for a minute, so apologies if this doesn't quite work. But the idea now is that you can start to promote this particular ticket to a major incident. I can say yes on that part. I then have the opportunity to assign my major incident teams. In this case, I'll say it's Mia. I've got a communication coordinator. In this case, it'll be Seth. I can save that. Once that's saved, I've then got a number of major incident fields that then become available for me to enter data into. And if my demo worked as I planned it to work, you would have a number of related incidents, that are associated to this major incident. So, as the major incident then progresses through the likes of these templates and the processes that you may want to invoke, through things like identify, contain, resolve, communicate, review, the outcomes of this progression on the major incident can then filter down into the associated incidents. So it's just allowing you to create associations between tickets very rapidly, identify which tickets need to be associated in the first place using real-time incident correlation, using k-means algorithms, and then following the processes that you've probably already got in place around problem management, around major incident management, and so forth. So really sifting through large amounts of data sets, seeing the wood from the trees, using smart analytical AI to assist and reduce the administrative burden that comes with ticket analysis and ticket trending. Okay, so we'll just add that. And then those sequence tasks are just down here. Okay, good. So I'll just drop back into my presentation again. So hopefully, I demonstrated the ability for us to raise tickets using the algorithms. We can identify tickets that share similar traits and commonalities. How we can kind of group those tickets together, associate them to a parent job, promote the parent incident to a major incident management, and then follow your usual major incident processes from there. Value back to you if you adopt this technology. I know we're being recorded, but I'm going to say it anyway. There's no additional licensing charges for Helix Insights. It comes as part of your Helix platform. There's a caveat, though, that you do need to have a suite license in order to make use of it. But it's a value add that we've innovated, technology to assist you, our customers, with regards to the analytical part of AI. Now, the generative part is really hot at the moment. We are producing many agentic AI solutions in that space. I'm sure Sam has got a number of webinars that she's already run and will continue to do as agentic AI takes a foothold and we release it to the markets. But for today, a 68% reduction in effort to identify major incidents. I think you can all see that the AI is doing the analytical work for us by putting things into clusters, grouping things together nice and neatly. 43% efficiencies gained in reducing administrative overhead when analyzing incident trends. Gone are the days where you have to stand in line to get a report written, only for it to be slightly wrong. You have to go to the back of the queue, get another report, or develop your own reporting skills, or download it into Excel and look at the data there, or having to, drop into a ticket and look at the notes of the ticket. And then ultimately what we're trying to do is to maintain service, right? Keep services running green 100% of the time. And if not, if something does go wrong, how do we get it back running as quickly as possible? So how do we reduce downtime on business services? That's all from me, Sam. So I'm going to open it up to any Q&A. Hopefully the audience enjoyed that, you found it useful. I'm going to, while we open the lines up for any questions, I will put some links into the chat. Please click on them, have a look. There's a short 7 or 8 minute video that we did a few years back talking about k-means and ticket clustering and so on and so forth, which you may find useful if Helix Insights is something that you plan to deploy soon.
Thanks, Sean. I'm just unmuting everyone, so if you do have any questions, don't be shy. We don't have any at the moment in the Q&A section. The links that Sean has been providing, I will put that in a follow-up with the recording, which will be in the next 24, 48 hours. I'll get this out to everyone that's joined today. I guess, Sean, why we're waiting for if anyone wants to speak with us live, if you want to raise your hand, is there any other kind of key takeaways or just summary that you'd want to give from your presentation and demos today, just to get everyone started?
Sorry, I went on mute there. Yeah, just wanted to say that you need to be on version 21. I'm going to say 21.3, but I think it's a little lower than that. But I think 21.3 is a good starting point. If your Helix platform is on that version, you're good to go. You just need to enable the technology, set up the job, define your filtering and hit go. And it's really simple. It's very quick on configuration, very simple configuration. And I think the value you get back from that effort is tenfold. So I encourage everyone, at least in development or QA, to enable that function and feature and start using it, see what clusters you get back. You may need to tweak it based on how you enter tickets into the systems. I know I was working with a customer here in the UK, and they used a lot of templates to log tickets, and the clusters were quite static because all the subject lines were the same and the descriptions were all the same because of the template usage. So perhaps use the resolution notes, or perhaps use the work order info to cluster tickets. So yeah, just look at the way that you enter data, play around with the config, create multiple jobs, look at the results, and then off you go.
Okay, thank you. I think we have a question in the Q&A. So Yusuf has asked a question: if we have Helix ITSM on-prem solution, do we need another paid license to use BMC Insights?
No, it's included as part of your base Helix platform license. You do, however, need a suite agent license to be able to use that. But let me come back to you on that, Yusuf. I don't work in the sales teams, but I can connect with you offline and let you know.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you for your question, Yusuf. Okay, any other questions from anybody else? Feel free to come off mute or place it in the Q&A section.
There's another one here. When using real-time incident correlation, I want to upgrade an incident to a critical incident. Can you limit who can actually upgrade to critical in that tool? Can anyone upgrade the incident? I believe you need it's based on roles, and if someone has access to edit functions within an incident, then they can do it. So if you want someone to not do it, then you need to remove that role, that right.
Thanks, Sean. Florian, hopefully that's answered your question. If you can just let us know, that would be great, or come off mute.
Hello there. Yeah, I
Hello.
basically have the same question as the guy earlier. We intend to migrate to BMC Helix in cloud, and I was wondering if Insights Helix is included in the base version.
Yes, it is. It's included in the base product. However, you need a suite license for an agent.
If you will send that info via email, can you please add me in the close section?
No problem, Florian. We'll connect with you offline, okay?
Thanks.
Thanks, Florian. Another question, Sean, that's come into the Q&A. When using real-time incident correlation and want to upgrade an incident,
I've done that one.
Yeah,
I've done that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Steve said yes, answered my question. Okay, so I think that's all of the questions we have at the moment. We have a couple more minutes. Does anybody else have any questions?